Welcome everyone. This is Franklin Delano Floyd, Part 8. Now, when we last left off, Suzanne Savakis had actually been hit by a car and was shortly pronounced dead afterwards. And when her friends tried to contact family members, the only person who had known to have a daughter by the name of Tanya Tadlock had informed them that her daughter was named Tanya Tadlock, but she passed away when she was only 18 months old. So it made people ask, who is Tanya? Meanwhile, Franklin had, under the guise of Clarence Hughes, had tried to cash in on Suzanne's actual life insurance. He had actually taken out 2. So he had actually planned this in advance. But he made the mistake of, instead of putting the social security number of Clarence Hughes, putting the number of Franklin Delano Floyd. So the federal agents were contacted and they had asked the question, why is he using this name? And they had realized that 16 years ago he had actually fled. If you remember in the beginning, where he had tried to assault a woman and he had ran before trial, and he had been missing for 16 years. So he was actually taken into custody for 33 months. And Michael was actually put into a foster care. Now, the people that had been watching Michael had noticed that he had a lot of issues and they had a lot of work to do with him, because he was not able to talk, and there would be times where he would sit there and have these fits where he would bang his head against the wall. They would also say that he was very paranoid of closed-in spaces, and a lot of people would believe that when he was living with Franklin and Suzanne, if Franklin went to punish Michael, he would put him in closed-in spaces. But during this time, Franklin was in jail and he was actually trying to fight for custody for Michael. And the foster parents who had adopted Michael were fighting back because they wanted to adopt Michael and they truly loved him as a son. And in the court hearing, they had actually did a DNA test on Franklin and it had shown that he was not the father. So he had actual no rights to Michael whatsoever. I really wish that Michael had a happy ending, and I really wish that Suzanne would have happened a happy ending, but this did not end in a happy matter whatsoever. On the day that Franklin was released, he had decided to take matters into his own hands. And one morning, Michael had woken up and had had a normal day as he always had breakfast with his parents and went to school. But on this particular day, Franklin had broken into the school and held the principal at gunpoint, and he told him to make him take him to Michael or he was going to kill him. And the principal led him to Michael, and he led the principal and Michael into his truck and drove off. In a few miles, he had actually dropped off the principal and tied him to a tree. The principal would later say this was a statement that he would regret for the rest of his life. It was at this point that the feds had gotten involved and were doing some investigation. And for starters, they had 2 things to find out. Who was Tanya? And where was Michael Anthony Hughes? As they began trying to uncover who Tanya was, they had actually sat there and did a newsreel asking on who this person was. And back at Georgia, Jennifer saw this very ad and began breaking down crying. And when her husband asked what was wrong, she started pointing at the screen. I don't know who Tanya is, but that's my high school best friend, Sharon Marshall. And she called in the number and told them, I don't know who Tanya is, but that is my friend, Sharon Marshall. It was at this time that the feds started going over Franklin's files, and they came upon this picture of him was Suzanne Savakis. And he started seeing pictures of Sharon Marshall and realized that the little girl and the woman in the picture were the same person. So their next objective was to find Franklin Delano Floyd.